Once in a small town, there was a boy named Tom who loved to race. He was quick as a flash and won every race at school. Tom thought winning was the best feeling in the world, and he loved the cheers and praise he got every time he crossed the finish line first. In the same town lived a wise old man named Mr. Jenkins, who was known for his thoughtful words and kind heart. He had seen Tom race many times and noticed the boy's pride in his victories. One sunny afternoon, Mr. Jenkins walked over to Tom, who was practicing sprints in the park. "Tom," he said, "I see you love to race and you love to win. But do you know what makes a race truly remarkable?" Tom, puzzled, replied, "Of course it's about being the fastest and finishing first." Mr. Jenkins smiled and said, "Let's have a special race tomorrow. Meet me here, and we will see what winning truly means." The next day, Tom met Mr. Jenkins at the park, ready to race. But to his surprise, there were no other competitors. Instead, Mr. Jenkins handed Tom a heavy backpack filled with books and said, "Today, you will race with this on your back, and I will be your only challenger." Tom laughed. "But you're old, and with this backpack, I can't run properly." "That's the point," Mr. Jenkins replied. "Sometimes life gives us heavy burdens to carry, and we must run the race despite them." Tom agreed, and the race began. With the heavy backpack, Tom struggled to run. He stumbled and fell several times. Meanwhile, Mr. Jenkins walked steadily, his pace slow but constant. To Tom's surprise, Mr. Jenkins reached the finish line first. Breathless and exhausted, Tom asked, "How did you beat me?" Mr. Jenkins replied, "Winning isn't always about speed, Tom. It's about endurance and the will to keep going despite the weight you carry." "But I don't feel good about this race," Tom said, disappointed. "That's because this race was not just about winning," Mr. Jenkins explained. "It was about learning. Let's race again next week, but with a different challenge." A week later, they met again. This time, Mr. Jenkins brought two of Tom's friends, Sarah and Alex, who were not as fast as Tom. "Today," Mr. Jenkins said, "you will all race together, and your goal is to finish the race together." Tom was confused. "How can we finish at the same time if I run faster?" "Help them," Mr. Jenkins simply said. The race started, and Tom sprinted ahead, but he remembered Mr. Jenkins' words and slowed down. He ran back to Sarah, who had a limp and found it hard to keep up. Tom encouraged her, and they ran side by side. Then they both helped Alex, who was out of breath. Together, they moved forward, Tom no longer sprinting ahead, but matching his steps to his friends. It was the slowest race Tom ever ran, but as they crossed the finish line together, the applause from the onlookers was the loudest he had ever heard. "Why are they cheering?" Tom asked. "We were slow, and it wasn't a real race." Mr. Jenkins placed a hand on Tom's shoulder. "They cheer for your teamwork and heart. You've won something greater than a race. You've won friends and respect." Tom felt a warmth in his chest, different from the thrill of winning. It was deeper and more fulfilling. "But I didn't win," Tom said. "You did," Mr. Jenkins smiled. "You won at being human." Life, my boy, is like a race, but it's not about finishing first. It's about making sure others can finish it with you. It's about sharing struggles and victories and finding joy not in personal glory, but in mutual success. From that day on, Tom still ran races, but he also helped train his friends. He shared his victories with them, and they cheered for each other. He learned that the joy of winning together was far greater than winning alone. Mr. Jenkins watched Tom grow from a boy who loved to win into a young man who loved to help. The old man knew that the lessons learned on the racing track would guide Tom in the long race of life. Tom understood that winning was not just about being first, but about lifting others up so they could also experience success. This lesson stayed with him as he grew older, and he often found himself sharing the same wisdom with others. The boy who once raced for applause now lived for the joy of shared victories, and his life was all the richer for it.